Hey guys, Woods Farm here, just back out working on the Kubelwagen. I've had to take a break for a couple of days. I've been doing farm stuff, bush hogging and cutting wood and making trails and whatnot. But I got a little bit of time this afternoon, so the next thing that needs to get done are the doors. So I have enough materials to make 2 doors. So I'm going to start on one side, and they're pretty straightforward, just 1x1 square tubing to make a frame and then sheet metal over top of that. Each door panel has 4 ribs that need to get rolled into them. That's pretty easy. I think the trickiest part is going to be coming up with some sort of a hinge. Okay, I got some hardware in the mail, notably these door latches. These are called slam latches, and they're used for tractor cab doors and industrial trucks, those types of applications. They're going to be good for the Kubel. I have the ability to add an exterior door handle, and these already have a handle for the inside. And I went to the local hardware store and picked up some heavy-duty weldable hinges, and I think these are going to make a good starting point for fabricating the hinges that I need. So if you look at this is what we're going for. At some point late war, they went to a more simplified hinge, but I think for my purposes this is okay. It looks to me like each hinge for each door only has one kind of loop or contact point, and the bottom, the middle, and the top, I suspect are welded to the frame, the pillar. So that's what we're going to try to go for. I'm hoping to make mine removable, so potentially with some hardware, and it would be nice that if I could pull the doors off. I don't think the Kubelwagen doors were removable. You don't see any photographs anyways with the doors off, but for my purposes I think it'd be a cool added feature. So to make this work, there is some material that needs to get added to this center pillar, this bar. Basically 2 pieces of flat stock that kind of make a T shape. And also at the front pillar here, I need a piece of flat stock welded on the inside to kind of make a door jamb. I had thought about getting all clever and cutting a hole in this pillar and maybe recessing, making a recessed latch for the door handle to catch into, but that's something I probably should have done before the pillar was put into the vehicle, and I think it will make it a lot more complicated to get that door latch in the right place. So what I'm going to have is I'm going to have the latch actually catch over top of that door jamb. So the latch will be raised up off the door itself a little bit. I've seen that on a replica Kubelwagen, and that's basically what they did. It'd be nicer if I could make a more finished look, but really I think I'd be spending a lot of time making that kind of recessed door latch. I thought about just cutting a hole, make a rectangular hole, no problem, but unless you seal that hole off, so I would have to make a box and drop it in there and weld it in so it's sealed, because moisture would get down into this pillar and build up down on the bottom, and I don't want that. So we're going to go with the easier solution. Okay, so I think I've got an idea here how to make this work. This side of the hinge has the smaller bottom, middle, and top, just like we see looking at the actual photos of the Kubel. So that side would be cut down and attached to the pillar, and then these 2 pieces, if I cut them right, I can actually use this and flip it over to the other side. And of course I drew 3, I marked the holes here, but this is too small. It needs to come out about 1 inch, and it needs to go up about 1 inch to make a square, and the 4 holes will be spaced out over that, and I think that's going to work. Okay, so that's how I'm going to enlarge the hinge to get the dimensions I need. And you can see there's just to visualize where the 4 holes would be. So this piece is going to get cut out and it's going to get welded to extend this part of the hinge. And then I'll do that for both sides. Okay, so that's the finished product. I'm pretty happy with that. You can see how basically it's a 3-way hinge now. And this back plate, this piece with the 3, I guess, lugs or whatever you want to call it, that gets welded to the pillar, the door pillar, and is in between the 2 doors. If you see there, you look down, and these 2 sides pivot independently. And I played around with the, if you pull the pin, you can remove them. And it's also interesting, if you pull the pin, because there's 3 points of contact, so each hinge is wedged in between 2 pieces, you can, theoretically, I could just remove the front doors and I could leave the back doors, which I really like. So these are going to work fine. I was thinking about getting to the door frames, but I'm going to keep building these while I have it fresh in my mind. This first one went pretty smoothly, but I might as well keep making them. I'm pretty sure I have enough hardware to make all 4 for both sides. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to start on the doors. Okay, 4 door hinges complete. Pretty happy with the way these turned out. They're not all perfectly matching, but they're close enough and they're functional. I went back, looked at the photos, and realized there's actually 6 holes, 1, 2, and 3, and the same on the inside. I can go back and add a hole if I want to, but yeah. That is done. Moving on. So I think the next thing I need to work on is probably the actual framework for the door. But I might also add that door jamb as well. That'll just help me line things up. Okay, so I'm trying to design the center pillar. And what I've come up with is the easiest thing to do is actually take a couple pieces of 1-inch angle, and that'll form the door jamb. And I've got some rubber, like a rubber gasket on here to simulate the spacing, and you can see that's some 1-inch tubing that kind of simulates the framework. And there's my hinge. So unfortunately I don't have enough 1-inch angle to actually do the job, but this is giving me a better idea of the dimensions of the framework for the door. So I should be able to go ahead and build those, at least on the one side anyways, before I go and get material for this door jamb. So there's that center piece, and this is going to get attached onto that, and then the hinges will be mounted onto this, and then you can see the how the 1-inch will form a door jamb that the door can seal up on. So obviously this will extend all the way up. This is just a mock piece that I've got here just to give me an idea of what needs to happen. So over here, that piece there, that 1/2 inch, is going to be extend. It's going to extend all the way up here, and that'll form the door jamb at the front. Okay, so there's the door pillar and the door jamb welded in place. And there's the center door pillar. Okay, so there's the door frame just kind of roughed in. You can see how the hinges work. So the problem I did encounter is that the bar right here was not perfectly vertical. I should have waited and built this after I had the sides kind of set up where I had a reference point, but I was able to just use a piece of 1/2 inch flat stock on both sides just as a point to kind of get it where it needs to be so that the door is in line. So because of the way the hinges are sitting and the hole alignment, it actually ends up that the inside holes end up lining up with part of this frame. So instead of drilling a hole directly through and bolting it from the other side, I'm going to actually try to tap these holes, and then this part of the plate here, this corner plate, it's going to support the other two, which will just be bolts. It's not ideal. If you see here, the holes aren't perfectly centered in this 1 inch square tubing, but I'm going to do my best to tap them. The material is only 1/8 thick, so it's only going to be you know, like 2 threads maybe. It's not really going to be a lot. I'm going to be relying on these outer holes really to bear the weight, and these ones are going to more or less be for show. Okay, so the door hinge mounts are complete on both doors. They're a little bit of a hodgepodge there because I had to add material to one of them that was out of place. The other doors on the other side are obviously going to turn out a little bit better because I have a better idea of what I'm dealing with. And I went ahead and worked on one of these latches just to see how it's going to work. So you can see how the latch works. Just gets its name. It's called a slam latch. Just slam it, and if it's set up right, it should close. So I have the ability to add a handle on the outside of the door, so I'll do that at a later time. The doors, they come together like that, and that's because the bolt head on each door hinge is hitting, and I suspect an actual Kubelwagen the doors wouldn't come together either. There's actually a picture, a historical picture of a guy. He's got like a table set up on the doors, which is kind of cool. So the next step for these two doors is to put the skins on them, and that's fairly straightforward. It's just cutting out some sheet metal. The trickiest thing is going to be lining up the ribs. Each door has 4 ribs, and they need to line up with the ribs on the front quarter panel and the rear quarter panel. And both doors need to line up as well. So that's about the trickiest part. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap this video up here. Next step is to finish the doors on the driver's side, put skins on them, and then I'll be moving on to the windshield. After that, I'm going to be pretty much getting ready for paint. If you want to see more of these videos, definitely like and subscribe. If you have any questions about Project Kubelwagen, leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. As always, thanks for watching.